I'm going to be going over Psalm 104. This is a creation psalm. Other than Job and the Genesis, people really use Psalm 104 to talk about the creation story again. And some people will argue it's about the flood. But I'm going to give you some more information what I think is going on here. I believe it's not just talking about literal water, it's talking about dark matter and frequency. And I'm going to be talking about Leviathan again because it talks about Leviathan in 104 and some deeper meaning behind all this stuff in Psalm 104. Bless the Lord, my soul. O Lord my God, thou art very great, thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who coverest thyself with light and as with a garment, who stretchest out the heavens like a curtain. So, Hugh Ross believes that this is talking about how the universe keeps expanding, the expansion of the universe, which is the only holy book that talks about the universe expanding, just like scientists say now, because the active participle in that line in Hebrew, it means is stretching out, like it's a continuous thing. So Hugh Ross believes that is this is God's confirming or saying the universe is expanding. Who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind. Alright, so this is talking about God being a cloud rider. Okay, so in the ancient world, I believe this is talking about UFOs a little bit, okay? And it's talking about other things. I already talked about this in a couple of videos, okay? But when it says, God has a chariot, that word there, it means this Merkaba word, it means something to ride in, okay? And when it says there's eyes all over, a chariot that has eyes all over, and like Ezekiel's wheels, or when Elijah was picked up by a chariot, some people might say he was picked up by a UFO, okay? But the reason is why I'm bringing that up is because back in the ancient world, everyone said that they were talking about Baal's chariot. Baal has a chariot. I honestly think these people were seeing something in the sky and they were calling it Baal's chariot, okay, which I think are UFOs. But also when it's talking about this chariot who picked up Elijah, I believe it's talking about like an open portal, okay? Because this spinning portal thing could be called this Merkaba word. Merkaba just means something to ride in, okay? And maybe these people didn't know how to describe it, so they were just describing as when Elijah got picked up, okay, by a chariot, a whirlwind chariot. It's talking about this whirlwind open portal, possibly, okay? Because you're supposed to add in current information with these old descriptions, okay? I think God literally describes everything. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Timothy Alberino. If you don't know who he is, he's a Christian, and he's very heavy into the UFO stuff, like, and the alien stuff, very, very heavy. I'm just giving you the information, alright? He believes that some of these UFOs are actually coming from God. And he will probably even use this line to confirm that. I'm just giving you the information. And he actually thinks, like when the tribulation comes, God's going to send UFOs to pick up people. Like Elijah, okay? That's why he probably even thinks Elijah got picked up by a UFO. He's very, very heavy into UFO stuff. And I'm not saying I agree with that or not. I'm just giving you the information, all right? And you can just think on it. And I think UFOs are I just want people to read the Bible. I would be very cautious about you getting too involved in the UFO stuff if it's not bringing you to Jesus anyway. I think God uses some saved people like this to save other kinds of to save different kinds of people. Like some people are really like aliens, and UFOs are really obsessed with that stuff. So maybe God places people like this to get their attention, to bring them to Christ. I think that is very possible. But I would be very cautious about thinking that these things come from heaven. I would be very weird about it. And I wanted to bring up real fast there are supposed to be UFOs during the crucifixion. Okay, people will claim that. And I think UFOs are a sign of spiritual warfare if there's supposed to be good ones and bad ones, so maybe, I don't know. But I would be very cautious of assuming that these things come from heaven. But that's just something that he believes. He believes some of these things are actually coming from God. Alright. Part 4. Who maketh his angels spirits, his ministers of flaming fire. Alright, so that word spirits can be interpreted as winds, spirit and wind, okay? And the people will use this to say God commands angels, like they serve God, okay? Sure. I kind of like the idea of God calls people spirits, or he calls people angels. Okay, I'm not saying these supernatural beings exist. They do, of course. But God calls people angels in the Bible. You know, you're supposed to reflect them. Okay, if God calls people all of these angels. Okay, I'm not saying these supernatural beings don't exist. They do, but they are reflected in you. You're supposed to act like them. There are many Bible passages in where God says his people are speaking fire out of their mouth. Okay? In the book of Revelation, the two prophets have fire coming out of their mouth. Okay? And in the book of Jeremiah, because you have spoken this word, behold, I am making my words in your mouth fire. And this has a lot to do with cleansing. When you spread the word of God, it cleanses people like fire. Okay, anyway. And the whole disembodied thing is something I really like to think about deeper. It's about you not being, held down or clogged up by the sins of your flesh. Okay, you're walking in the spirit. You're walking with God in the clouds. Okay, you're walking with God in the spirit. You're not holding your flesh, the sins of the flesh are not holding you back. And so you're kind of like disembodied. Alright, I'm going to keep reading. Who laid the foundations of the earth that it should not be removed forever. Thou coverest it with deep as with a garment. The waters stood above the mountains. See, people, this is why people say people argue if this is about creation or if this is about the flood. There's an argument of what's going on here. At thy rebuke they fled. The water fled away. And at that voice, thy thunder, they hasted away. They go up by the mountains, they go down by the valleys, into the place which thou hast founded for them. Thou hast set a bound that they may not pass over, that they turn not again to cover the earth. See, that's why people think this is about the flood. It's about him promising not to do that again. So again, when it says that God laid the foundations of the earth, there's a big debate again if this is talking about the first time God did it, or if you believe in the worldwide flood, it's talking about how these foundations were laid down after the flood, the sedimentary rock layers. See why there's a debate here? And when it says thou hast set a bound for them, and people will say God separated the water. See, this is why it's a debate, because this is God saying he made a boundary for waters and land. Like there was a set boundary for water and land. Water stays over here, land stays over there. And they're both kind of seen in the creation story and in the flood. After the flood. Okay, so I'm actually going to combine the angels with this blowing wind. And in this wind drying up the land. Because that's described in the book of Genesis, okay? He said the land was dried up. Okay, he commanded the waves, but also he may have commanded these angels to do it. Okay, he may have commanded these angels blowing wind of fire to dry up the floods. That might be some messaging in this. And not to mention, this is talking about maps again. I already talked about this. That's why in these ancient maps, this stuff is all over the place. Okay, you're not realizing it. If you ever look at maps and you see these, of course, these cherubs are chubby little children. Okay, I already talked about this in this video right here, okay? But these angels and maps blowing wind, okay, is a reference to all this stuff, okay? At the ends of the earth and controlling the waves of the water and the atmosphere and the weather, okay? God might command these spirits to do this instead of him just doing it. That's very possible, is what might be going on here. Okay, because when you read the book of Genesis, he said he commanded the waves to stop. He may have sent angels to do it for him. And these angels blowing wind or flames of fire are in the book of Revelation. I talk about that in this video. Alright, so I want to talk about verse 19. I'm going to go down to verse 19. He appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down. Okay, so this is creation talk again. I want people to know that I think this is talking about God made time after this stuff. Okay, he made time. That's one of the last things he made before he made men. Okay, so all of this was made outside of time. That's why I think it's kind of not a good thing to argue about when this happened. Did it happen thousands of years ago, like 6,000 years ago, or like more than that? Because all of this happened outside of time. He made time after he made this creation stuff. Alright? And not to mention time, I think time changed after the flood anyway. Okay? The dimensions of time I talked about this in this video right here. The creation was almost remade after the flood. The dimensions of time had to be reset. It's talking about both. I believe it's talking about many things here. Okay, and I believe the flood changed the earth. It geoformed and terraformed the earth and changed the dimensions of time. And also, I don't think that was the last time he did it, because later in the Bible it says he changed the New Year date. Okay, he changed over the Passover date. It mentions that in the book of Genesis or Exodus. And then another time in Joshua he made the sun stay still for an extra day. That is God saying he's changing time. Alright? He's changing. I think God messes with time sometimes. And then there's an even more mysterious incident of when God gave Hezekiah 15 more years to live. And I know people say, oh, he just gave him more years to live. But some people have fringier theory about that is that God made Hezekiah 15 years younger. Like he turned back his own personal clock. It actually literally says that. It says he turned back his own sundial in order to get things done, or it has to happen. Alright. So I think God messes around with time when he has to. And I think the Bible is a very supernatural book in a good way. Okay, I believe the Bible is written outside of time and space, because that's where God is, and that's where heaven is. Alright? I think it's written for everyone in their own time frame. That's why it sounds so weird. It's designed to help everyone in their own time. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about some more fringier stuff about what I think it's talking about with all this flood talk. I'm going to start talking about antimatter and black matter and dark matter and some other things that God is trying to say here, okay? Okay, so I'm going to go down to verse 25. So is this great and wide sea, wherein are these creeping innumerable, both small and great beasts. There goes the ship. There is Leviathan, whom thou hast made to play therein. These wait upon thee, that thou mayest give them their meat in due season. Okay, I'm going to talk about this. This is okay. I already talked about this in this frequency video. God uses this water talk to not just talk about literal water. It's talking about frequency. Okay, it's talking about frequency. And I'm not kidding, I believe this is talking about ether and dark matter, because you can literally go in Cern, they were literally observing this liquid, okay, this dark matter liquid, and there were beings inside this liquid. Dark matter is not, these are actually dark matter energy bursts. It's kind of hard to explain, okay? It's not exactly liquid, but it's liquid-like. It's described as being abyss-like, okay? Some people may even say it's black goo. If you aren't just conspiracy theory stuff, it's a black goo. Okay? When it says that these things are big and small, and they're in the sea, okay, and they make a big old beast. That's why in the book of Revelation, Leviathan, a seven-headed beast, rises from the sea, because it's talking about the unsaved people and these demons all together make one big beast. Okay, it's talking about these beings, okay, because these beings, it's hard to explain. They are beyond time and space. Okay, demons aren't in body. They're everywhere and in certain places. Okay, they're confounded to certain places, and like the spirit of lust goes everywhere. Okay, it's not just in one person at a time. It's hard to explain, but in this dark matter stuff, you can literally see this stuff. So when it says Leviathan is swimming in these currents, it's not just talking about frequency currents. It's not just talking about literal water. It is talking about how these things exist in this dark matter stuff, in this ether. Alright, some people call it ether. Okay, now I'm going to get into some very fringy stuff. I believe these ancient people were seeing and experiencing something like this, okay, because they were calling it the Absu, which means the abyss, okay, the watery, inky abyss. They actually named gods after these experiences, and not only because I don't think they're just making up stuff, I think they were actually pulling entities out of these doorways. And you can actually see it in the artwork. Please look at this artwork. Do you see, like, I'm going to show you a picture of what it looks like now. Okay, you know, this watery, open portal. And look at these pictures of these ancient people. Do you see that wavy, watery stuff coming out of these doorways? And these beings are in the middle of it. Okay, I don't think, and then people just say, oh, these guys were just making up stories about pulling hybrids out of the abyss. Which, of course, they are calling these things gods and calling them Enki and, you know, and Absu, which that's what Absu means. Absu means the abyss. Okay? And all these guys were just making up stories. I don't think so. I don't think these guys were making up stories. I think they were doing the same things we do now, where they were making black magic. I don't know how they were doing it. Probably through crazy sacrifices and weirdness. Okay? And they're opening doorways and pulling things out of the abyss. And we're doing the exact same thing. We're just doing it with science and technology. We're doing the exact same thing, okay? And even in their own writing, they say that's what they were doing. But historians think they just, you know, they weren't literally pulling a goat demon out of the portal or a goat man and letting it run around. No, really, that's what these things say they did. Okay, so I'm gonna explain this again. Okay, so God uses these descriptions to explain a never-ending plethora of it's supposed to never stop giving you information. He uses these descriptions to explain many unlimited things. Another thing it's explaining is star constellations. Okay? There's Draco the dragon, who is swimming in the outer space, swimming/flying, okay? That is in the ancient world, these people thought these things were swimming in the darkness. Okay, that's why they put wings on them. Swimming and flying in the darkness, okay, in the abyss. Even to this day, we still use that same language. We call outer space the abyss, and we call under the ocean the abyss, right? There's Draco the dragon, and then there's also Hydra. Hydra is a water dragon who swims in the abyss. So God is talking about star constellations, and it's talking about evil beings swimming in dark matter, and another thing, are there evil spirits like in outer space? Or in the ether, not just talking about Earth, I'm talking about in outer space, are there literal outside of aliens, okay, because I believe aliens are demons. Are there evil spirits in outer space? I don't know, but I did hear this one really creepy story, and you can choose to take what you want from it, okay? And here it is.
3 horrifying things said by astronauts. Number 3. Story Musgrave. As an experienced NASA astronaut, Musgrave has a lot of credit to his name. He claims that on 2 space missions, he saw an 8-foot-long serpentine lifeform floating through space.
Well, God might be explaining that too. I don't know. And the most important thing, I really mentioned this in this video right here. This is talking about how unsaved people are swimming in the sins of chaos. The rivers of chaos, okay? Let the sinners be consumed out of the earth. Let the wicked be no more. Okay, that is the very last line in this stuff. Okay, God, this is talking about how God is going to consume you with this black matter stuff. And no joke, that stuff I believe is in hell. Okay, I talked about that already in my previous video. You're going to be consumed in this very chaotic weirdness, okay, that we barely understand. You're going to live in that stuff with Leviathan, with the demons, and with the devil. Okay, you're going to be in the same frequency currents and in the dark matter frequency currents of these same things. You're going to live with them forever. Alright? God uses this flood talk to explain many things, not just talking about the literal flood, which I believe literally happened, but God is trying to say that this flood of sin is still here. And I believe sin is an actual substance that exists in another dimensions, okay? It's an actual substance that is made by you, and you are it. These wait upon thee, and thou mayest give them their meat in due season. Okay, this is multiple messaging. First of all, if you choose to not be saved, to be in the ship, or to join Noah's Ark, you're going to be meat for these things. These things are going to eat you. You're going to be the bait. Also, there's a reverse message here. I talked about this in the video. You're supposed to eat Leviathan. I know that sounds very weird, but if you read the Bible, I'll go over it in this video. You're supposed to eat Leviathan because you're supposed to be saving these people. Okay, you're supposed to be bringing these people outside into the boat or on top of the mountain out of the rivers of chaos. You're supposed to be fishing for people. Okay, you have to bait people and fish for people so they don't get eaten up anymore before they die. That is the whole point. The whole point of why there's a confusion if the earth was flooded and some of it was saved is because you're supposed to meet God in the clouds and you're supposed to be on these ships, okay, which is obviously a reference to Noah's Ark, which is just Jesus, okay, and the whole point is you're supposed to meet God in the clouds on Noah's Ark, or you can say on top of a mountain, to avoid this flood, okay. God will protect you from those rivers of flood. He has lifted me up out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire, and set my feet on a rock, and gave me a firm place to stand, away after you die and when you're still alive. That is the whole point, and that's why there's all this confusion about how many floods there were, or did the flood cover the whole earth. That's because God is explaining many things, okay. That's why it sounds so weird, and that is why people argue about this stuff, okay. You are supposed to be meeting God in the clouds and on the ships of safety to avoid the floods of sin and chaos. And I want to bring up something very important. So you have to realize that God was using these people's concepts to try to save them, okay? So on these pictures, they are opening a doorway on top of a mountain. If you look at this picture, these men were climbing on top of a mountain. That's where they are. They're on top of a hill or mountain, and they're opening this doorway. That is what this is. This is a top of a mountain doorway. This is the only one that you're allowed to open to release the Holy Spirit. You have to realize that God was using these concepts these ancient people had through Christ. He was trying to save everyone using their own concepts, and he used Jesus to explain all of it. Okay, so I think I'm going to end the video there, and so please think about this stuff, guys, and thank you.
This house